Grace, what happened? What did he eat?
Is it not just a dog?
He ate from the pot. The pot I cooked for your son.
Foam is coming from his mouth. Grace, call the vet now.
You people and this dog. As if anything will happen.
If a dog can collapse from that pot, what was it meant to do to a person?
Watch your mouth in my son's house.
Open the gate! We are taking him to the clinic now!
The dog let out a sound Grace would never forget. A high, broken cry that cut through the quiet of the Okafo compound like a blade. She dropped the pot of stew she was carrying and ran, her whopper catching against the kitchen door as she burst into the backyard. Bingo, the family's old brown retriever, was on his side in the dust, legs jerking, foam gathering at the corners of his mouth. Grace fell to her knees beside him, screaming for Michael, screaming for anyone, her hands shaking as she tried to lift the dog's heavy head into her lap. "Somebody help me! Bingo is dying!" Michael came running first, then the gateman, then finally Chief Mrs. Okafo herself, stepping out onto the veranda with a whopper tied loosely around her chest and a look on her face that Grace would replay 1,000 times in the days that followed. Not shock, not fear, but something colder. Something close to disappointment that the dog and not Michael had been the one to eat from that pot. They rushed Bingo to the veterinary clinic on Aminokano Crescent, and Grace sat in the back seat of Michael's Camry, holding the dog's trembling body, whispering prayers she hadn't said since she was a girl in Owerri. The vet worked through the night. By morning, Bingo was alive, weak but breathing on his own, and the vet pulled Grace aside with a folder of test results that would change everything. "Madam, I need you to understand what I am telling you. This is not food poisoning. This is rat poison. Someone put this in that stew deliberately." Grace's hands went cold. She thought back to the pot, her pot, the one she had left simmering on the stove before stepping out to take a call from her sister Blessing in Port Harcourt. The pot meant for Michael's dinner. The pot Mrs. Okafo had been hovering near when Grace came back into the kitchen, claiming she was just checking if my son's food is ready. 18 months had passed, and she had not come around. If anything, the coldness had sharpened into something she could feel in her spine whenever the older woman entered the room. After the revelation from the vet, Grace did not scream. She did not confront anyone. She drove home in silence, her mind working faster than it had ever had in her life. She knew with absolute certainty that her mother-in-law had poisoned that pot, meaning for it to kill her son, or perhaps meaning for it to kill her, since the stew had been prepared for both of them before Michael's late meeting pushed his portion aside. Either way, someone in that house was a poisoner, and Grace was not going to wait around to become the next victim. That night, while Michael slept beside her, exhausted from the hospital and the police report he had quietly filed without his mother's knowledge, Grace lay awake, making a plan. She thought of her father in Owerri, a retired police inspector who had taught her one thing above all else. Evidence speaks louder than accusation. Suspicion alone is just a woman's word against a respected matriarch's reputation. The next morning, she called a small security company recommended by a cousin who installed discreet cameras for shops in Wuse Market. Within 2 days, 3 tiny cameras were hidden in the kitchen, one inside the spice rack, one behind the row of cooking pots, one tucked into the curtain rail above the stove. Grace told no one, not even Michael. If she was wrong, she would destroy her marriage for nothing. If she was right, she needed proof too undeniable to look away from. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Grace cooked normally, watched her mother-in-law carefully, smiled through Sunday dinners where Mrs. Okafo made pointed comments about women these days who can't even season meat properly. Grace swallowed every insult, played the dutiful daughter-in-law, and waited. On the 15th night, her phone buzzed with a motion alert from the kitchen camera. Grace was at her sister Blessing's apartment in Gaki, helping plan a baby shower, when the notification came through. Her hands trembled as she opened the live feed. There, in grainy color, was Chief Mrs. Okofor standing over the pot of egusi soup Grace had left simmering before she left, glancing toward the kitchen door twice, then pulling a small sachet from the pocket of her bubu and emptying it into the pot. She stirred it twice, fast, then walked away as if nothing had happened. Grace sat frozen on Blessing's couch, the phone shaking in her hand, tears streaming down her face, not from sadness, but from the terrifying relief of finally seeing the truth with her own eyes. Blessing, watching the video over her shoulder, gasped and grabbed Grace's arm. Grace, you cannot eat anything from that house tonight. Do you hear me? Nothing. Grace called Michael immediately, her voice steady in a way that surprised even her. Michael, don't eat the soup on the stove. Please, just trust me. Throw it away and order something outside. Michael, confused but rattled by the urgency in her voice, did as she asked. He never knew that night how close he had come to becoming his mother's second victim, or that his wife had just watched on a hidden camera feed 20 minutes away the woman who raised him quietly trying to kill him. Grace did not confront her mother-in-law that week, or the next. Instead, she gathered more footage, 3 more attempts over the following month, each more brazen, as if her mother-in-law's confidence grew with every failed attempt that went unnoticed. With each video, Grace understood the shape of the hatred more clearly. This was not simple dislike of a daughter-in-law. Mrs. Okofor wanted her son back entirely, wanted control restored even if it meant burying him to do it. Grace took the footage to her father in Owerri on a quiet weekend trip. Her father, retired but sharp as ever, watched the videos twice in silence before looking up. You did the right thing gathering evidence first. Now, decide how this ends. Quietly through the police where it drags for years in court, or in the open in front of the family where everyone sees the truth at once and there is nowhere left for her to hide. Grace thought of Michael's face if police arrived at her mother's door with handcuffs, the scandal, the years of legal proceedings that would tear the family apart slowly instead of quickly. She thought of every Sunday dinner where she had swallowed contempt in silence. She made her decision.
I want everyone to see it, all at once, where she cannot lie her way out of it. 2 weeks later, Grace organized what she told the family was a celebration dinner for Michael's company landing a major new logistics contract. She invited everyone, Michael's aunties, his uncles, family friends who had known the Okafors for decades, and of course, Chief Mrs. Okofor herself, seated at the head of the table in her finest lace, basking in what she believed was a tribute to her son's success. Dinner went smoothly. Grace smiled, served the meal with her own hands, made sure every dish on the table that night had been cooked under the watchful eye of her sister Blessing, who stood guard in the kitchen the entire afternoon. When the plates were cleared and dessert was served, Grace rose to her feet, tapping her glass gently for attention. Before we finish tonight, I want to share something with the family. Something that has been weighing on me for weeks and something I believe everyone here deserves to know. She connected her phone to the television in the sitting room, the screen visible from the dining table, and pressed play. The room fell into a silence so complete that the ceiling fan above seemed loud. There, on the screen, was Chief Mrs. Okofor, clear, unmistakable, her face turned slightly toward the camera as she emptied the sachet into the pot, stirred, and walked away. Then the second video played, then the third. Gasps broke out around the table. Michael's uncle stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor, and Auntie covered her mouth with both hands. Michael himself sat frozen, staring at the screen, then at his mother, then back at the screen, his face draining of color as the full weight of what he was watching settled over him. "Mama," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mama, what is this? Tell me this is not what I am seeing." Chief Mrs. Okafor's composure, the same composure that had ruled this house for decades, cracked instantly. Michael, listen to me. That woman has poisoned your mind against me. I would never. The camera does not lie, Grace said quietly, her voice steady, even as her heart pounded. Bingo nearly died from that same pot. The vet confirmed rat poison. I have the test results. I have 3 separate recordings spanning a month. This is not a misunderstanding. Michael's hands were shaking as he stood up from the table, walking slowly toward his mother, searching her face for the woman who raised him, the woman who sold her jewelry to pay his university fees, the woman who had been his entire world before Grace ever entered it. He searched, and he could not find her in the cold defiance staring back at him. You tried to kill me. Mama, you tried to kill your own son.
The room erupted into chaos. Relatives shouting, an auntie weeping, Mrs. Okafor's own brother demanding the police be called. Michael, devastated and trembling, did something none of them expected. He walked to the door, opened it, and stood there holding it wide. "Get out of my house," he said. "Tonight. Now." "This is my house," Mrs. Okafor spat back, though her voice had lost her usual command. "I built this family. This house is in my name, and you are no longer welcome inside it. You tried to take my life, and you tried to take my wife's life in the same breath you call love. I will not call the police because you are still my mother, and I cannot bear to see you in handcuffs. But you will leave tonight, and you will never set foot in this house again." The family watched in stunned silence as Chief Mrs. Okafor, the same woman who had once ruled every gathering with an iron glance, gathered her wrapper and walked out into the Abuja night with nothing but the clothes on her back, her reputation collapsing behind her with every step. Word spread through the family network within days. The aunties who once feared her sharp tongue now whispered about her in market queues. The church members who respected her position on the women's committee quietly removed her name from every list. The woman who spent decades building her standing in society watched it crumble in a single evening, undone by 3 short videos and the truth they could not argue away. Grace did not celebrate. She held Michael that night as he wept for the mother he had lost, even though that mother had tried to take everything from him. She understood that exposure was not the same as victory. It was simply the truth, finally allowed to breathe. In the weeks that followed, Michael leaned on Grace in ways he never had before, finally seeing the partner who had protected his life quietly, without seeking credit, without raising her voice, simply gathering proof and waiting for the right moment to let it speak for itself. Bingo recovered completely and within a month was back to chasing lizards across the compound, unaware that his near death had unraveled a poisoning plot and exposed a decades-long resentment hiding beneath polished family dinners. Chief Mrs. Okafor moved to her late sister's old house in Nsukka, where she lived quietly, rarely receiving visitors, her name no longer spoken with the same reverence it once commanded. Michael visited her twice in the following year, each time leaving with the same heaviness in his chest. Grace never stood in the way of those visits. She had won what she needed to win: her life, her marriage, and the truth laid bare. What do you think? Would you have exposed her in front of the whole family or handled it quietly through the police? Tell us in the comments below. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs it today. And drop a comment. We want to hear from you. God bless you.